Hey, welcome to Maxwell 3000 Productions. I am Maxwell 3000. Today I have with me again uh, the man, the myth, the legend, my pops, Wayne Carter. Thanks for talking with me again today. How are you?
I'm doing good. I am just thrilled to be here.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I'm actually been pretty excited to do this as well. Just to get to spend time with you and talk about this stuff, really, and then also just playing around with the technology is fun too. Um, well, last time we talked, we really talked a lot about your dad, Joe Maxwell Carter. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about grandma, my grandma, your mother, Rose Arnold Carter. Um, can you give me a little introduction to Rose Arnold Carter?
Well, she was born May 29th, 1926. Passed away September 4th, 2009. She made it to 83. We should be so lucky. Uh, I think I mentioned this about Dad also, but the obituary had her being a native of Davidson County. I just don't think that's accurate. Uh, all I ever knew she was from a little community in Wilson County called Noreen. I don't know if she was born at home in a hospital. I possibly could have been born in Davidson County, but Noreen's pretty good little trip back in those days to go to Davidson County. So I question that. Um, I never knew my grandfather. I knew her mother, and mother had, at least to my memory, two brothers and two sisters. Uncle Eddie Arnold um, lived in Nashville, out Charlotte Park area. Was a World War II vet. Um, she had another uncle, Wilburn, who lived in the Woodbury area that I recall. Um, what I remember hearing about um, Uncle Wilburn would have been that he had something to do, worked out, or did something in regards to a funeral home in Woodbury. And the reason I knew that is that back in sort of my early military career, I commanded the detachment of National Guard in Murfreesboro. Several of the guys that were in my unit were from Woodbury, and they knew him,
Oh
and
yeah, wow.
that's how they told me he was associated with the funeral home.
Funeral business. Wow. Okay. So you just said you knew her mother, your grandmother. What was her name? Do you remember your grandmother's name?
I do not. I'm ashamed of myself for not knowing that. She lived what I knew of her. She lived her, and I would have been a very young child when she passed. Lived with mother's sister in Lebanon, um, Agnes, and that would have been. I think you might have met a couple of my cousins that were her sons, the Kenneth and Raymond. I think Raymond worked for the Lebanon Democrat.
I think I met Kenneth at Emmanuel Baptist Church.
Exactly,
And
I
I think
recall that.
I couldn't recall the name until you said that, but I think that's who I met. Yes. And that was Agnes was their mother. It would have been grandma's sister,
Correct.
correct? Correct? Okay. Okay. All right. And they all lived in Lebanon, which Noreen is what southeast of Lebanon, Wilson County, and is really kind of the other side of what is now Interstate 840 from Gladeville, kind of the area we were talking about with Granddad.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
almost the other side of the Cedars of Lebanon,
Yeah, if you think,
but toward a little bit further south towards Murfreesboro.
yeah, it was. If you think about 231, the Highway 231 that goes from Lebanon to Murfreesboro, they'd have been on the east side. Noreen would have been on the east side, and Gladeville or the Fellowship community would be on the west side.
Right, right, right. And also, coming from Lebanon, Canesville, is it Canesville Road? Canesville Road uh, goes. That's the back way to Murfreesboro. That goes through Noreen and then to Las Casas,
Las
um,
Casas.
Las
Yeah.
Casas over in Rutherford County. Um, so yeah, yeah, and that's a little bit more. Um, I guess it was a little bit larger than Fellowship. Fellowship we talked about really didn't make it into our modern world. Noreen is an unincorporated community, but they do got a post office type of deal. Um, Population about 333 people, I guess, in what they consider Noreen proper.
I
Um,
hadn't been over there in years. I have no idea. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's interesting.
And the
Interesting.
other sister, and I don't know if this is her real name or not, but they call her Ola Mae, and she was married. Oh gosh, I remember the guy that at the time I knew they lived in Rockville, Tennessee, which was he was a run a sawmill over in Rockville. And one of my memories about going to visit them was just the aroma or the smell of the sawmill. I love that the smell of that particularly cut cedar.
Yeah. How old were you when you would go visit them in Rockdale? Rockdale, that's kind of is that where is that? Is that
I think it's Rockville.
okay?
It's in Rutherford County. It's
Oh, okay, okay, Rockdale. Hmm.
um, elementary or less school age would have been me at that my memory.
Okay. Well, so last time you talked as well, you talked about when you were younger, your folks taking you to a square dance place that square dances were held. That's now under Percy Priest Lake.
Yeah,
Um,
the name of that place was the Mar Hayden. Don't ask me how to spell it.
okay. Well, I wanted to know what do you know about how Grandma and Granddaddy kind of got together?
I don't have a clue. Here's what I think happened, just based upon bits and pieces. They would have probably had some dances or type of stuff over at Cedar Forest. And I think Dad and Mom probably met up at the Cedar Forest area.
Right. Well, yeah. So that's what I was getting at. That's what I had always heard. And now I tell you, now I don't know where I heard that from. I can't say that Grandma told me that or Granddad told me that. They certainly could have. I don't know where else I might have heard it, but that it's not really technically where Cedars of Lebanon is now, but in that area,
Yeah,
they used to hold these square dances that we know that folks that were involved in the Grand Ole Opry later were associated with these square dances, right? You know,
that's
look, do you
correct.
know anything about that? Like the cloggers of the Grand Ole
Yeah,
Opry and
there
all
was
that stuff.
um,
Doesn't that have its history
there was a
in the square
guy,
dancing?
the guy that, and I think I probably met this guy when I was younger. Ralph Sloan had a brother named Melvin Sloan, and both of them were involved in the square dancing part of the Grand Ole Opry. Um, and I'm not sure which was more. And I want to think Melvin was more, but I don't really know that. But I remember Dad and Mom talking about knowing these guys, and apparently they would do their gig on Saturday night at the Grand Ole Opry, and then come on down to one of these places to call square dances.
Hmm. Yeah, but when Grandma and Granddad met, that would have been before
Oh, right,
the
right, right,
Opry,
right.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I
I
always
say
heard that story. Maybe that's a little
I don't
lore.
remember really when the Grand Ole Opry began. But yeah, because they would have been probably about the same age as these guys.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, I just want we will have to do some checking on that. I kind of find that interesting. I do remember that kind of that story, or maybe a little lore that came out of some different stories that I remember. Maybe it's more that I remember these stories about these square dances, and I have created this narrative. I just don't know. You know what I
Well,
mean?
they may have told you more about it than I recall. To be honest with you.
Hmm. All right. Well, tell me more, and we're kind of getting back to our very first session. Tell me more about your childhood home over on Gamble Lane. And before you get into it, I want to just place where we're at a little bit. Um, so last time you said off of Murfreesboro Road, but that you did that was just you misspoke, and I know you know that because Gamble Lane is off of Old Nashville Highway.
Well, that would have been Murfreesboro Road back in then, 'cause back
Well,
in those
Murfreesboro.
days.
So what I'm saying is, when people say Murfreesboro Road, they mostly think 231, right? That's
Well, no,
Lebanon Pike. That's Lebanon Pike, Murfreesboro Road, depending on
well,
which way you're coming
if you're coming from Lebanon, it would have been. If you're coming from Nashville, that would have been Old
from.
Murfreesboro
Okay,
Road.
okay. Well, but there's
40,
Nashville
41,
Highway, huh?
41, Highway
Yeah,
41.
that's Nashville Highway
Yeah,
from Murfreesboro. That's
yeah,
what it's called. That's just what they call it.
yeah. Well, and we lived on Old Murfreesboro Road or Old Nashville
Old
Highway, depending
Nashville
on which way
Highway is
you're
what it's
going.
called now. That's what it's called now.
Yeah.
And kind of running. Um, if you're heading west on Old Nashville Highway, coming from Sam Ridley Parkway, right?
Right.
Uh, Gamble Lane is on the right hand side, right before this really impressive fire station today.
Well, I don't
And
know
that
about
is,
that.
well, that's where the community center that I remember was,
Right.
and
Right.
what you recall as the elementary school.
Correct.
Now is a very impressive fire station.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's so. I wanted to tell you that it's very cool. Um, and so if you hang a right there on Gamble Lane, um, you're pretty much running true north. Well, no, Gamble Lane runs northeast. It runs northeast, um,
Yeah, I'd
and
say
it
northeast.
and ends up paralleling those train tracks that you were talking about. If you look at
Yeah,
it on the
about
map,
right.
you look at it on
Yeah,
the map.
about right.
Um, the first and Gamble Lane ends at Deer Drive now. I don't know if there was a road there where it ended.
No, they wasn't.
Now it ends there at Deer Drive. Um, the last road on the left, which you mentioned, is let me get this right, is Sunrise Avenue. And Sunrise Avenue does run almost true north off of Gamble Lane. And then it veers northwest, and it kind of ended in a cul-de-sac. And right at the end of that cul-de-sac, I saw that stone wall intersecting with the railroad track. That stone wall ended right there at the railroad tracks. I'm
Okay.
guessing that's probably that stone wall you mentioned.
You said stone wall. I call it rock fence.
Rock fence, same thing. Yeah, right. I was looking for the sinkhole, but that's a pretty rough area, and there were no trespassing signs, so I wanted to respect them folks' boundaries.
Yeah.
I was inclined to do so.
Yeah.
There's not any block houses. I'm pretty sure that the house that you spoke of has probably been tore down and built upon again. But I was wondering if that might be the road that you kind of talked about. Do you remember it ending in a cul-de-sac really close to the train tracks? I mean, I
Well,
remember you said that you weren't right on the train tracks.
yeah. It when you went when you hung a left off of Gamble Lane, whatever it's called. I didn't we didn't have a name of it back in those days. It would just end at the railroad track. And the
Okay.
railroad track was up on a built up area that the railroad track's a little bit higher.
Okay.
It just ended right there.
So that's probably before. Yeah, I know where you're talking about. It veers off to the left again more now, and goes back towards the rock fence. So
Yeah,
that area.
that part wasn't there back when I grew up.
Okay, yeah, I can see what you're talking about, where it just kind of ends at the railroad track.
Right.
Yeah, I saw that. So you probably did grow up on it's Sunrise Avenue now.
Sounds like it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. 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 That's cool. I took the boys out there, and we were kind of getting a visual on that, and just trying to place some of these things. Um, Tell me more about the house that y'all grew up in. You said it was a block house. Tell me
That
about that a
that
little bit more.
that house down Gamble Lane. 'Cause we moved to the one that you remember probably when I was second or third grade.
Okay. Tell me about the house on Gamble Lane a little bit.
The house on Gamble Lane, I recall, it was just a simple block house. The rooms were really, really small. It was a bedroom brother and I shared, and a bedroom mom and dad had. And I remember a bit of a kitchen and like a living room and a bathroom. That was pretty much it.
Okay, so it's small 2 bedroom, and you and Donnie shared a room.
Correct.
And you said it had electricity because we talked about probably. Do you remember what kind of heat y'all had though? Did you have electric heat? Because we
I
did talk
don't.
about. I think the other place had kerosene.
Or gas. Other place
Yeah.
had gas. I really don't remember.
Well, and so Donnie Carter, you talked about him a little bit. Can you
Well,
give us
there's
a
the
little bit?
legend right there.
Can you give us a little bit more of a formal introduction on him?
Donnie Joe Carter. He was born March the 1st, 1946. And because he died March the 13th, 2015. Um, he is the reason that I am a Green Bay Packer fan. He played. I'm. He played football when we lived in South Carolina, where I was born. I think he played little league football there. And when we moved to Tennessee, they didn't have little league football, so he didn't really get to play football again until he get to high school. And he was like the defensive specialist. He was the middle linebacker. He was like uh, the leader on defense. And I'm not really sure, but I think they went undefeated his senior year, maybe. I remember them talking about that, him and some of his friends and all that. Uh, that was his thing. He loved football. Went in the army, was drafted in the army, and spent a couple years in the army, and came back and uh, did some jobs. Ended up working at Tennessee Farmers Co-op there in Laverne, and it's that time when he started the first little league football program in the area. Actually, it was in Laverne first, and then they end up going to Smyrna, uh, and that was his passion for really all of his life.
Yeah,
And
and you mentioned it before. And just so we can get some clarity out there, it's the Lee Victory Park, and there's a Donnie Carter Field.
correct,
And that Lee Victory Park is the big park in Smyrna, um, right there on Sam Ridley Parkway, kind of across from the airfield. You
right,
know,
right,
so yeah, and it's interesting. I think that you said that he wasn't able to play ball when he was young a little bit, that there was a gap in him being able to play. And it just seems like maybe that really impacted him. And because he did work in his life to
Yeah,
make
I didn't
sure,
think about that. That's probably true. Yeah,
yeah, that's pretty interesting. That's pretty interesting. And he was many things, right? He did. He was a farmer.
he enjoyed his farm. Mostly cattle farm. Uh, Not a big farm, but a little of a spread there in Smyrna. Um, Very active in his church. He was a deacon at the Miracle Baptist Church there in sort of
Smyrna.
between Laverne and Smyrna. I don't know if it's in one of the city limits or not. But
Yeah.
it's a good person, good. I think in the aspect of Christian life that he lived that because he gave a lot more away than he got as far as his time and effort that he spent with those, particularly in the little league football. And I think the big thing that he left with a lot of them was the idea that football was a tool to learn about how to deal with life.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I know there's plenty of them that's come through that Smyrna High School program that would agree with you for
Yeah.
sure, for sure. Um, so y'all shared a room on Gamble Lane. How long was that? How long did y'all share a room there? Because I know eventually, what did he move or did he get drafted and go in the army before y'all left there? Or had y'all already
No, no,
moved?
no. We moved back over to a place on the old Murfreesboro Road when I was second or third grade. Brother would have been middle high school. We shared a room there too.
Okay,
Uh, he graduated in '64, and then he probably got drafted in maybe '65, '66.
okay.
So
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Well, tell me about your young life. You've talked about a little bit. What do you remember about going and seeing your relatives? You talked a lot about going and seeing these different folks. When did you do this? Was this for holidays or tell me more about that. I find that really interesting.
Well, I think it was pretty much holidays, but there were other occasions when they would just, go visit, particularly on my dad's side. We would go visit Uncle Charlton quite a bit, and I would spend time over at his place, uh, some during the summer whenever I wasn't in school. Uh, so yeah, we'd visit him a lot, and of course, cousin Judy and his wife Aunt Lyra, and then we'd visit uh, Dad's mother, Aunt Louise, in Murfreesboro because my grandmother lived with her until she passed, and so Dad would go visit his mother and that kind of thing. They lived Aunt Louise. Uh, her husband was Uncle Weston Staley. They lived, and most of my memory was on McKnight Drive in Murfreesboro. They had a farm also out Franklin Road, but I think they lived pretty much in Murfreesboro, at least in my memory. Uh, and then Uncle Douglas, Dad's brother, would occasionally come visit us. I don't. We may have gone to visit him some, but I don't remember a lot with that. And then on Mom's side, uh, I I really remember going to Rockville, uh, really because of the smell. And I still love the smell of cut wood and that cedar and visiting them out there uh, and of course in Lebanon with Mother's uh, sister who took care of my grandmother to go visit with them some. And Uncle Eddie would go visit in Nashville out at Charlotte Pike. One of the things I remember, and I tell kids about this sometimes whenever I'm doing a ecology class, uh, going to visit Uncle Eddie in the wintertime, I remember sometimes it would be snowing. This is out Charlotte Pike, and it wasn't all that busy like it is now. But there would from time to time be black soot on top of the snow to make it look black because of all the coal that was burned. People heated with coal out
Hmm.
there, and now of course that parlays into the the fossil fuel burning and all that stuff that can go into a class, those kind of things. So I remember that. The other thing I remember about Uncle Eddie, I remember he had a wife and a daughter, and I don't really remember them that much, but every Christmas he'd give us a shoebox full of candy and fruit, and I just thought that was the coolest thing.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, hey, we've talked about a lot. I'd like to just take a time right now, maybe just take a break, and we'll come back again and talk to some more, if that's all right with you.
Sure,
All
sure.
right, well, great. I really appreciate you doing this with me. Once again, this is Maxwell 3000 Productions. If you've liked what you've experienced today, please like and subscribe. We'll see you again. Peace and love.